Good afternoon, it's Graham Coath. It's my first My Music of the Week, and in a minute I'll be speaking to Harry, who's joined me in the studio. But first, this. I need to get going, Mel. See you later. Harry Stafford, thanks for joining me this afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, yeah.
Good. Now, I see pleasantly that you have guitars behind you, which is always good. It's a habit now that many of the musicians that are on the show have a foray of guitars behind them. How long have you been playing guitar, sir?
It was, I guess I was 14, so that would have been about 1977, 78. I don't know, it was the older punk thing. You know, the minute that you heard people playing very fast bar chords, and you thought, I could do that. And invariably, with a bit of practice and a bit of perseverance, you could. And so, yeah, that's how I started. I mean, before me, the elder people, they would all be playing 12-bar blues and stuff like that, but I went straight into bar chords and punk rock. So cut out the other bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's fun when you first pick up a guitar to try that. Now, how long did it take you to actually get bar chords as opposed to like open chords, or did you go straight for the bar chords?
Oh, I did. I did understand about tuning. In terms of how you could tune the guitar into bar chords or the open tuning rather. So yeah, I did the traditional way, holding the guitar in a proper way, playing proper bar chords, Ramones style. Yeah. Ramones, Johnny Ramone going up and down the neck, just playing bar chords, the two bar chords, and basically that's where I got my dexterity, shall we say, that yeah. I could play faster than perhaps I needed to.
Yeah. Did you grow up with music at home at all, or was it fairly limited?
Yeah, we always had a piano in the house, and my brother played the clarinet. But there was a shortage of guitars, which of course I needed to address that, and so I immediately got one. And so the musical ensemble was complete now that I had a guitar to throw into the mix.
Yeah. Did your parents listen to music at all, or what did they listen to?
Yeah, it was. Although their musical tastes were fairly, I suppose, strange. I mean, my mum was very into classical music, and my dad, for some strange reason, he loved Austria, and he would have these strange yodeling records, and Yeah. So yeah, it was a mixed bag. I think I had to find my own way to a certain extent.
Yeah, that is quite something, isn't it? Austrian yodeling. I remember myself. When we were young, we actually went on a holiday to Austria, and every night during the meal, around in this hotel, there was a guy called Collie, the singing chef. I can't remember what that was in Austrian, but he would then sing and yodel at us. And I did come home with a Collie the Singing Chef album. I can't remember how old I was. Yeah. But yeah, and it got played to death. There was something about it, something quite hypnotic about it.
Yes, I can't say comfort. Yes.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever sort of gone back to yodeling at any stage in my musical career.
It was a short window.
Yeah, absolutely. So after picking up the guitar around that sort of age, was it then getting together with a group of friends, or how long before you sort of discovered that you wanted to do the music thing?
I have to say, almost immediately. I discovered. There was a group of us. We were all discovering this all at the same time. 77 punk rock, And of course, the thing was to get to be in a band, and it didn't really matter so much if you weren't great to start with. The point was, it was all about energy, enthusiasm, and just making a statement. And that was the great thing. So, of course, immediately we wanted to be in a band. And four of us got together. People selected their various instruments. I actually started on vocals because the other two were better at playing guitar than me. So I had to wait my turn to be a guitarist. But no, it was great. We had a drummer, two guitarists, and me on vocals. The other guitarist just reluctantly played bass eventually. But no, it was great. And then, of course, I played guitar a bit later on. But it was, it was brilliant.
Do you remember the name of that band? Band?
Yeah, we had three names. We were called Fiction TV.
Yeah.
Then we were called Item, and then we were called New Faction Sus. And these were names that meant a lot at the time, but they were just sort of general kind of punk names for bands at that time.
Did you ever make a T-shirt with any of those names on?
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd get a marker pen and you'd
write, do it. Yeah,
right onto a
DIY.
T-shirt. Yeah, I'm sure there's only one of its kind. I don't doubt it exists anymore. I'm sure a couple of washes and it probably would have disintegrated. Yeah. But we definitely we did it. We did it all. It was all DIY.
Do you remember any of the topics that you sang about then? Or
it was about being alienated and oppressed. Of course, we weren't remotely oppressed or alienated. We had a perfectly happy kind of childhood and youth at the time, but we had to sing about it because...
Well, you were teenagers.
We were teenagers, exactly, yeah. And, we didn't have a huge amount to complain about, but... it's like they say, what are you rebelling against? Quick, what have you got? Let's find something. We were teenagers, and it was brilliant, absolutely amazing at the time.
Yeah, what was it moved you on from those early punk days into your next field of songwriting, etc.? What?
Oh yeah, well it was. I mean, the natural progression was. I mean, punk sort of slowly dissolved into sort of the post-punk kind of thing, and these amazing bands started to appear, like the Gang of Four. Just this sort of almost avant-garde but very punky at the same time. And then there was the Cramps appeared, playing sort of rock and roll but a really sort of distorted noise. And then there was the Pop Group and the Birthday Party and these incredible bands that were playing this... I use the word avant-garde, obviously it's not quite that way, but certainly off-kilter, off-centre, not playing traditional or poppy. It wasn't about melody and it wasn't about harmony. It was about energy and making a point and a statement. So we were very much more driven by that whole scenario. And so we wanted a band to follow that spirit, which of course meant moving on and learning to play in a different style. And certainly the Inca Babies, which was the band that I properly formed in about 1982. So what's that? That's about 82. I would have been about 20. So I just left my teen years and was probably doing it properly. And that was the time that we actually got the band together and actually put a record out a year later or so. So we started to get our act together, and but it was definitely those bands, as I said before, that pushed us in that direction.
Yeah. What else was happening in your life in '82? Were you just coming out of education? Were you still in education?
No. I'd just gone up to Manchester.
Right.
To Manchester University, although actually Manchester Polytechnic. It's now a university now, but it was.
They were all polys in those days, apart from a few, weren't they?
That's
and then
right.
They all changed.
That's right, yeah. And so I went to Manchester Polytechnic, and basically for the sole thing to meet people and form a band, which I did. That the idea of going to university to study and improve yourself was one part of the equation.
Yeah.
The bigger part for me was to actually meet people and form a band that I could do things with, release records and gig and try and make a real fist of it, you know. And that
Where
was
did you move to Manchester from? Where had you come from?
well, I'm originally from outside London, but we were
Right.
in Shrewsbury at the time in
Yeah.
the Midlands, and then from there I went up to Manchester, so it's slowly moving north.
Yeah.
And
Was that a
uh,
culture shock for you?
not really, I don't think. I used to go to Manchester to gigs
Okay.
occasionally, and I used to come up for football and to visit my sister, who was at the university here. So no, it was. I'd worked myself up to actually living in Manchester, so that was okay.
Yeah.
It was a good, slow, and easy process.
Yeah. There was a lot happening musically in Manchester at that time. So did that then rub off on you in terms of all of the
Yeah,
melting pot of stuff that was going on?
it was very interesting because the post-punk scene in Manchester was, I mean, with Joy Division was the absolute, for me, the best band. I mean, there was the Buzzcocks as well. There was a certain ratio, but Joy Division for me was the my absolute favourite Manchester band at that time, because there was this. I mean, they probably didn't realise it at the time, but there was this incredible kind of eeriness about it, and this. I mean, before the word goth was even termed, before the sort of industrial rock music was even coined, they had somehow invented it to a certain extent, and it was incredibly appealing to someone who was coming up and wanted to emulate this really stark, eerie, as I say, rock music or guitar music. And because Manchester at the time, when I came up to Manchester in about 1981, it was basically a pretty rubbish city in terms of it was really run down.
Yeah.
I mean, all the areas that have been built up now, which are magnificent. Before that, it was just endless lines and lines of dead, empty, decaying warehouses and cobbled streets that have been basically set up for demolition. And thus the whole of the city was really, I mean, talk about grey northern city, Manchester was it. And it was, to all intents and purposes, it was a slum, and it really needed a development that happened 10 years later, which transformed it into the city today, which is magnificent. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the city so much as in terms of the people were amazing and the music scene was great, but that music really did illustrate the rather grim setting that was
Yeah.
Manchester in those days.
Well, I think in a way that affects you as well, that kind of environment.
Yeah.
I had a fairly similar experience in terms of going off to university at Sunderland, which was again a polytechnic when I got there, and it was a university just as I left. But it was pretty grim when I got there.
Yeah,
And if I've been back since in very recent times, and it's obviously a lot of people say Sunderland hasn't quite come up fully yet, but it's compared with how it was when I was there, it was pretty gritty. Let's say gritty,
Yeah.
so we don't upset anybody, and you did worry that, certain streets you walk down, you probably get murdered. But I mean, I think kind of living within that and everything, you'd have very, very, very working class clubs and pubs, etc. as well. And you must have experienced some of that in Manchester.
Yeah.
It has an effect on just how you see life.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you realise how important it is to the people you meet. This isn't just some vague little hobby that they do occasionally. This is something they totally believe in, because they throw themselves into it fully and with huge energy, because for some people they can see their surroundings and their outside world, and it doesn't seem a great deal to enjoy outside of the thing they love, which is music. And so a lot of people I met, they were incredibly enthusiastic and had a passion for it, which rubbed off very much on me. That real sense of, and also that sense of they belonging to that environment and that city. I was an outsider. I could never possibly call myself a part of their sort of scene as much, because as I say, I was outside. But I really did. That whole energy and that belonging really rubbed off on me. And it was a very exciting times to be in there, and to appreciate their enthusiasm, I think, which was extraordinary.
Yeah, once you started playing in that area and you were writing music yourself and recording, etc., were there any particular bands or individuals within the Manchester music scene that you actually felt that you'd learned a lot from?
There were something like when we started. Of course, you're always keen to know who your contemporaries are, and I think there were about 3 or 4 bands that I really liked. There was Big Flame, who were an extraordinary off-kilter, very obtuse almost in the way they approached their music, and that it wasn't so much to be listened to actually to throw yourself into the abyss with. And there was another band called Tools You Can Trust, who were an extraordinary couple of guys who just played metal percussion and got these amazing rhythms going. And if it wasn't for John Peel giving them a couple of sessions, I don't think they'd ever have been discovered at all. And other bands of a certain ratio, they were also living in the same neighbourhood as us, but they were established now. But Manchester bands, it's funny, isn't it? Because a lot of the Manchester bands took their time to get where they wanted to be. And also they lived way out in the sticks often, so we didn't really get to meet them so much until they came into town and actually started playing in the city. But certainly those 4 bands, I think were very influential on me at the time. Yeah.
And once you started taking your music out of Manchester elsewhere, was it reacted to well in different places, or was there somewhere that didn't understand it?
No, we were really lucky. I think we did that thing whereby we absolutely hit the zeitgeist. We couldn't have timed it better. Music, having a career in music is very much about good timing, being in the right place at the right time. And we just managed to hit it, absolutely. Where people were looking for something like this, they were looking for a kind of dark rock band that would embrace things like the idea of the death rock and the goth scene and the kind of dark wave, something that was Joy Division, something that was the Cramps, all those elements, the Gun Club, the Bertie Pod, and we managed to just fit in there. And as we went round the country playing gigs, the promoters knew this, would actually sort of say, band influenced by Gun Club, Bertie Potty, Cramps, Joy Division, etc. And suddenly everyone looked, ticking all these boxes, and we'd play. And luckily we weren't too much of we weren't huge pretenders to this, because we actually had elements of those bands in our sound. So we didn't disappoint, shall we say?
No, well, it's great, because I mean, for some bands that doesn't happen. For some bands, they're very much of a local scene, and some places get it and some places don't get it. But that's great that it just transferred.
No, we were lucky. I mean, the planets were aligned in that particular moment, and we managed to make the most of it, and it was great, really good.
Yeah. So what sort of brought you up to today with what you're listening to now? What are you listening to now?
Well, I've kind of I think it's that terrible thing as you get older, you start to listen to a vaster spectrum, but then you start listening to things like jazz, and because
that's not a crime.
It's not a crime at all, because you want to be challenged, and so I've been listening to some of that, and we'll talk about Marco, who is a huge jazz aficionado, and my partner in crime on my latest record. He's very influential in terms of his taste in jazz, but also a lot of blues records, and I suppose bebop and swing, and elements of the idea is to listen to a lot of things and then to almost incorporate our style and our influences and our take on it. So there'd be a bit of sort of post-punk guitar, a bit of sort of grungy goth in there, so, but then apply it to these kind of jazzy styles. And so in a way that's what I've been listening to quite a lot. I mean, there's an awful lot of music out there which I won't have the time to listen to, which is quite encouraging actually, because it means that I should never be bored.
No, but do you find it? I'm asking you this because I've thought about it myself the other day. But do you find that the way that you listen to music has changed now that you're of a certain age? Because I know for me it has, in a way, in that I realised that when I was young I probably played less music, but to death.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, and then there's I think as you get older, there's part of me that thinks greedily that I just want to make sure that I've listened to as much as possible before I shuffle off this mortal coil.
Yeah.
And therefore, I kind of my radar is bigger, and I listen to a lot. Whereas once and it's partly because I didn't have as much music back then. I had however many records you had in your collection, but you just played them and played them and played them and played them, and until the needle wore through that one, and you had to buy another copy of it.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, no, I did. I mean, in those days, if you bought an album, then it was a cherished possession, and you made damn sure you got your money's worth. And you're absolutely right. You played it and played it, and I mean, I still have my record player and the albums there. But no, you're right. Once it goes on to the once it's basically a file and it's on your computer, or you're streaming it, or you're looking at a streaming service. You jump from things, because the streaming services don't really like albums. They like compilations. They like you to jump in between, so that I suppose the streaming, everyone gets to listen to as much as possible. But I mean, the streaming services are quite disappointing, because they will tell you what they think you like.
They'll decide for you, won't they?
That's right, and they'll suggest something to you, and you say, "The Velvet Underground. Do you think I've never heard of the Velvet Underground?" And you think, "That's a great call. You're absolutely right. I do like the Velvet Underground, but not at this moment."
No.
But they think they've done me a huge favour. So yes, their suggestions aren't so great. You do really have to dig deep yourself and find the material. I mean, there's some good radio stations. I mean, Six Music every now and again have some good shows that open up a few ideas and stuff like that. And I do look for that, because once you get into, once you do a bit of research, it's quite nice to actually find new songs that you haven't heard. And you're absolutely right. I do more of that than actually sitting down and listening to a whole record that I know and love. Almost, it's a shame, isn't it? Because you're right. I've done that. I know I know what that's going to do for me, but I'm looking for something else forever.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a tip. I'll give you a tip now, which I find helps in terms of going back to that kind of old listening habit. What I try and do is I try and read a book by a musician and then listen to them while I'm reading it.
Ah.
Because I find I find if I can try and make those associations as I'm going through. So at the moment, I'm reading Tracy Thorn's first book, from Everything But the Girl, and of course then she's going through some of the early punk bands that she listened to, and then as I'm listening to that, as I'm reading that, I'll go and listen to those punk bands, etc. And so I'll follow it through the book. It's quite a nice way. It's quite a nice way of doing it, actually.
Well, I've just got Baxter Jury's new biography, so I shall do the same.
Yeah, it works. It works quite nicely. You sort of like, oh yeah, and it kind of then takes you back as well. At the same time, you sort of like, oh yeah, well, and you get into Oh yeah, I didn't actually ever listen to them. Yeah, I'll listen to them now because I like the sort of chronological element of it. So yeah, tell us about the new project then. So how did you meet this guy? Where did you find him?
Well, he was one of those names that keep cropping up on. I think it was Facebook actually. Keeps cropping up on Facebook as someone who likes posts, likes stuff about the Inca babies, likes stuff that you've mentioned, and eventually, I don't know what it was. I think he sent me a message saying, "Have you heard this? If you like this, you'll like this." And I went, "Oh, okay." And as is the messenger service on Facebook, it's very immediate. And before we know where we are, he's zapping me. We're having a conversation.
This is Marco Butcher, by the way.
This is Marco Butcher, yeah. And he's in North Carolina, Winston, North Carolina, and I'm in Manchester, UK. And I say to him, well, I'll tell you what, I'll send you an MP3 via the messenger. Have a listen to this and tell me what you think about it. And that's basically how it started. I sent him, I think, a copy of the track. What was the track? It was like Horror Film House. I said, have a listen to this. This needs some drums, and it needs a bit of guitar, some sort of Tom Waits-ish kind of guitar on it. And he said, send it to me, and I'll see what I can do. And I thought, what the hell? I'll send it over, see what happens. And I was absolutely bowled over. He sent me back this fabulous bit of guitar, really kind of bendy and wiry and kind of mysterious, and at the same time very bluesy. And I thought, wow, this is great. So I said, drums next, and then
Please,
sound effects, and then bits and pieces. And before we know where we were, I mean, about 3 or 4 months later, we'd actually swapped loads of ideas. And he, because he's been making music for donkey's years, actually had a collection of tunes he had with Nowhere to Go.
Right.
I mean, and when I say a collection, he had hundreds. So he sent me literally hundreds, and I just picked out 8, I think, that I really liked. There was a lot of sifting through, and I took those, and I think we used about 6 or so on the record, and they were terrific stuff. I mean, because he'd written so many, there was lots to choose from. And so basically I would take these tunes, put a bit of guitar on it, put a piano on it, but mainly put the vocal on it, and double track a double vocal on it. And so we were constant. I mean, these files were pinging backwards and forwards as we changed them, as we remixed it, as we don't like that, how about this? And as I say, it was just it's what you do when you can't go out and tour and meet people. You do it all online, and it was a great process. And eventually, the CD, only a CD. We couldn't get the we couldn't get vinyl, unfortunately.
You can't get vinyl for love nor money, sir.
We have to wait a while for that.
Yes.
So we have a little CD. I need to send you one, by the way. I don't.
Oh yes, please. Yes, do that.
So put your address in the message in the chat,
and everybody else, you've got to buy it. So
everyone else got to buy it. Yeah, but it's very competitively priced. Yeah, go to my Bandcamp site and you can get a copy there, and it's as I say, very competitively priced, and I will sign it if you want, and I will throw in other bits and pieces and other stuff.
And we can't call them singles these days, but the snippet of the album that's pre-extended from the album, someone's trying to get in. What's that about?
Someone's trying to get in. Yeah. It's I have this this sense of I work at the Manchester Film School in Manchester, and part of the what we do is we're writing scripts, and my students come in and they all want to write horror film scripts because they're of a certain age, and a lot of the scripts they write are about I suppose a monster out there trying to get in.
Right.
And I'd read so many of these that I think it had eventually I thought, well, I have to exercise this and I have to get it out of my system.
Yeah. So it's cathartic. This
cathartic.
song.
So I boiled down all of their all of their ideas or all of their angst, and just thought this will make a good song. And there's somebody trying to get in.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's a neat little message, and it works better as a 3-minute song, I think, than perhaps trying to write a 90-minute script on it.
I think you're probably right. And it's got that kind of nice. It's quite mesmerising as a song, isn't it?
Oh, good. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the idea is it's a simple, direct, a collection of images, I think, whereby you create the scenario and let the listener. I mean, the video. I made a video for it, which is like the idea is it's like a spy hole in a door, and the idea is it's reversed because the person is looking in when he should be looking out. If you see what I mean. So there's someone trying to get in. Who's trying to get in? Is it him? Just me being pretentious. But so that's quite fun, and it's gathered quite a bit of interest. So I'm quite pleased about that.
Well, I understandably so, and I guess writing it in a time when there's a virus about.
Yeah,
there's a monster trying to get in.
Absolutely, yes. I'm glad you've added that interpretation, because I'm aware that is one of the interpretations. Absolutely.
Well, it is, but I mean, it's like all of these things with this pandemic. Nobody really wants to write a pandemic album. Nobody wants to do. Nobody. You say you do film, or you teach film. Nobody wants to write a pandemic film quite yet.
No, there's probably a lot of scripts about, but nobody's quite prepared to green light it just yet.
No, absolutely not. No, it's fascinating. So you teach film full time?
Yeah, it's my job.
When you're not musicking?
No, I'm not musicking. Yeah, that's yes. The Manchester Film School is just down the road from me, so I'm quite lucky. I teach various elements of academic areas and careers, and what else do I teach? I kind of look at it, come at it from an academic process. So I'm very much teaching them about how to put their ideas together in a coherent way, so that when they leave, they'll actually be in a really good place to go and get work. But yes, we do script writing. Basically camera operation, and basically how to put a crew together. Because we very much specialise in individual jobs within the film industry. Gripping, gaffers, first ADs, etc.
My friend, I know all about it. My eldest son is at a different university studying film at the moment.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he comes home and he says, well, I've been doing boom all day,
Yeah,
and you think you've been standing there with a pole and a microphone on you.
That's right, and it's a very useful skill to have.
But it's a skill. There is a skill. You've got to do it in the right way.
Absolutely,
absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Harry. So you didn't tell me your friend in terms of jazz. What was the jazz influence then? What does he listen to jazz wise?
Oh gosh, well, he's a huge Miles Davis fan, as the trumpet,
as we all are, right?
As we all, yeah. It's the trumpet player on. I should have actually got a collection of a list of the stuff he listens to, because some of it's quite obscure. I know the Thelonious Monk. John Coltrane. He introduced me to a John Coltrane album the other day, which is a difficult listen, but at the same time,
which one's that?
It was a live record.
Yeah.
It was a live record, and about halfway through, he does this primal kind of. It's probably very famous. He does this primal scream where they all join in and they go ah, and
wow.
I mean, there are people who are watching, listening to this, who will be shouting at this and go, "You fool! It's this record," and I'm going, ah. Well, again, I'm fairly new to it, so I haven't quite had the chance to totally absorb it. But great, anyway. So yeah, Marco has these is a very good knowledge and list of great records, and it's been influential because he's got me to listen to some stuff. Also,
Yeah.
because he's Brazilian, he played me some old sort of bossa nova stuff from the '60s.
Wow.
Which is very interesting. There's a pop band, a sort of psychedelic pop band called Os Muertes, I think it was, who are very, very famous in Brazil. And they're all over YouTube, but I'd never heard of them before. And listen to it, fantastic. If you can imagine a bossa nova psychedelic pop band
Yeah.
from 1968, 69. And they were massive. There's lovely shots of them on TV in Brazil playing to these huge auditoriums. And the music is really kind of, it's like early Pink Floyd. Imagine Syd Barrett has his own kind of bossa nova band, and he decides to do it in his own kind of obtuse, mad way. Incidentally,
Emily.
exactly, but
Yeah,
it's
brilliant.
It's great. I mean, talking of Syd Barrett, one of the tracks off the record is our version of Arnold Lane, which again, Marco is a huge
Had a strange hobby, didn't he?
He did, yes, collecting clothes, and but at the same time, it's a terrific idea to actually do a cover of that. And again, that was all Marco. He has these strange notions, and then he puts them into action, and these wonderful things happen. So it's great that he has this imagination.
I'm looking forward. I think that's given everybody a lovely taster. I'm really looking forward to hearing that now. So that's wonderful. So what does the rest of the year hold for you?
The rest of the year, well, up to the Christmas, we have we have 5 or 6 Inca Babies gigs, which should be fun, and an Inca Babies album at the end of the year.
Brilliant. Coming south at all?
Coming
Just have to
south.
ask.
I'm not sure we are actually. We usually try and fit in a Brighton show and a London show, but we'll have to wait and see. I will certainly let you know if we're
if
in
you
your
come anywhere
neighbourhood.
near Bristol or Exeter, let me know. That would be great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, we're reasonably busy. I mean, we had to cancel a show recently because of a COVID outbreak, and we all had to sort of we got pinged and had to sort of disappear.
Oh, you got caught in the pingdemic.
Got called in a pandemic, so we had
dear.
to cancel a show, which hopefully won't happen again. But we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so busy. It's great, really
Yeah.
exciting.
No, good. Well, as I say, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah,
I look forward to listening to the album. I'll give you some feedback on it.
brilliant. Thanks, Graham.
once I've listened to it. And thanks for joining me for a chat this afternoon, Harry.
Thank
Thank
you very much.
Do make sure you check out Harry's Bandcamp and order the album. All right, because without a bit of money in his pocket, he's not doing anything. So there you go.
Take pity on me.
Yeah, that's it. Harry, thank you very much. Bye for
Cheers.
now. Bye.